Hi, I'm Megan and welcome to my kitchen. Today's video is in collab with Valerie over at the Hargett Life. I'll have Valerie's channel linked in the description box below. As soon as you're done watching my video, make sure you head on over to her channel, show her some love, let her know that I sent you, and subscribe to her if you're not already. She is a super sweet lady. She's a wife and a mama, and she makes the most delicious looking recipes. I know that you will love her channel. If you're coming to my channel from Valerie's, welcome. I do weekly what's for dinner videos, grocery hauls, and more. I hope that you take a look around my channel and that you'll consider subscribing. If you're a returning viewer or subscriber of mine, thank you so much for coming back. I really appreciate it. In this week's What's for Dinner video, I'll be sharing with you what meals we had this past week. Our dinners were easy to make and budget friendly, so if you'd like to get some weeknight meal ideas for you and your family, just keep watching. For dinner this first night, it was our date night, and it was my turn to plan our little date. I'd seen a post on Facebook for a lady that just started her own side business, and she does charcuterie boards, and my husband and I love charcuterie boards, so I thought it would be fun to order a box from her, and it was delicious. I don't even know the different meats and cheeses and toast and things that she used, but everything was so good. And it was so fun to try this because, I don't even know what we ate, to be honest, but it was delicious. But I'm assuming that there are things that we probably normally wouldn't get, and it was a lot different than the charcuterie boards that we normally make. So we just snacked on this while we watched a movie that night, and that was our dinner for this night. For dinner this next night, I made a vegetable lasagna. I don't follow a recipe when I make this. I'll try to find one on Pinterest that's similar to what I did and link it in the description box below. But let me show you what I used to make it. Here are the vegetables that I'll be using. Of course, use whatever you and your family like. I have some fresh spinach, minced garlic. I've got a half of an onion that I'm just going to peel and finely dice. I've got this eggplant. I'm going to wash it and cut it into chunks. I have a couple of these baby bell peppers in my fridge that I want to use up, so I'll just dice these up. And then I have some fresh mushrooms that I will wash and then slice up. I remember seeing recently a YouTuber that said that they cook their lasagna and they don't use the no-boil noodles and they don't cook the noodles beforehand, and it turns out, I can't remember who it was. It may have been Tamara at Southern Wife Everyday Life, but I can't remember for sure. But I decided to try it, but I was honestly still kind of worried that the noodles would not turn out. I looked online and looked on Pinterest, and everything that I looked at said that it would work. You just needed to add like a quarter cup of water, but I was still a little bit worried. So I soaked my noodles in hot water for just about 10 minutes while I was preparing all of my vegetables. I have my skillet over about medium heat. I'm going to add in some olive oil, and once the oil and skillet are hot, I'm going to add in my vegetables. So I've got my sliced mushrooms, my diced onion and bell pepper, my diced eggplant. I'm going to add in some minced garlic and then season this with some salt and pepper, and you can use whatever seasonings you'd like. I'm going to give that a stir, and I cooked this for probably about 10 minutes, just until the vegetables got nice and tender. About halfway through, I added in my spinach, and it may look like I added a lot, but remember, spinach cooks way, way down. And here in just a second, you'll see the finished vegetables and you'll see how far it cooked down. So here's what it looked like after about 10-15 minutes. The vegetables are tender. I set this to the side, and again, you can see how much that spinach cooked down. I'm going to set this to the side, and I allowed it to cool for just a few minutes. You don't really have to do that. I just prefer for it to be a little cooler while I'm assembling the lasagna. While those veggies are cooling, I'm going to get started on the cheese mixture. I'm using cottage cheese. Now, most often when I make lasagna, I do use cottage cheese. It's not because we don't like ricotta. We like ricotta just fine. But I think it's just that's what I'm used to. So growing up, when my grandmother made lasagna, she always used cottage cheese. She lived in a very small rural town, and their, little mom and pop grocery store certainly did not have ricotta cheese. So she always used cottage cheese. So I think that's just why I grabbed for it. But you can use whatever your preference is. I'm also adding an egg. I'm going to season this with some salt, pepper, onion powder, garlic powder, Italian seasoning. Use whatever seasonings you like. I'm going to add in some grated Parmesan cheese and then some shredded mozzarella cheese. Today I just happen to have this Italian blend, but either's fine. I'm going to mix that until it's well combined and then set it to the side. I'm going to assemble the lasagna. I'm spraying my casserole dish with some nonstick cooking spray. I'm using an 8x8 here, and it was plenty for my husband and I, and we had leftovers for a couple days. To the bottom of the casserole dish, I'm going to add a layer of pasta sauce. Use your favorite or use homemade. I just have this in my refrigerator that I want to use up. Next, I'm going to add a layer of the noodles. I broke my noodles in half. Then I'm going to add a layer of the cottage cheese mixture and spread that over the noodles. With everything that I read about making lasagna without cooking the noodles, it said that you really want to make sure that you cover the noodles either in sauce or the cheese mixture. So that's what I did. Next, I'm going to add a layer of the sauteed vegetables, then some more of the marinara sauce. Then I'm going to add a little bit of grated Parmesan cheese and some of the shredded mozzarella cheese, and then I'm just going to repeat the layers. I like to wait and add the final layer of shredded mozzarella cheese until the lasagna is almost ready. So I'm placing my lasagna onto a cookie sheet that I line with foil. I just did this because, as you can see, the casserole dish is pretty full and I did not want to clean up a big mess in the oven. So I covered this with foil, placed it onto the cookie sheet covered in foil. I placed it into my preheated oven, which was set to 375 degrees. I baked this for about 45 to 50 minutes, and then I'll remove the foil and add the cheese and finish baking it. While the lasagna was baking, I decided to make some garlic bread. I knew that I had a loaf of French bread in my pantry and I would only need half of it for another dinner this night. So I looked on Pinterest. I found this recipe from the Cozy Cook, and I've made a few other of her recipes that have all been delicious. And so I decided to give this a try. So glad that I did. This was delicious. This was so good. I highly recommend you all give this a try. I'll link the recipe in the description box below. Basically, in this bowl, what I'm going to do is add in my softened butter, minced garlic, and then here's like her secret ingredient that she uses. She uses Italian dressing. I just happen to have these little cups of the Olive Garden Italian dressing in my pantry, so I used one of the cups, and when I saw this in the recipe, I knew instantly that my husband especially would love this, because when we go to Olive Garden, he loves to dip their breadsticks into the Italian dressing. So I'm mixing that Italian dressing and then part of the mozzarella cheese into a bowl. I'm going to mix it until it's well combined. I'm going to divide the loaf of French bread in half because, as I mentioned, I need the other piece for another dinner recipe this week. Then I'm going to slice that in half again, this time horizontally. So I have two pieces. I'm going to place those onto a cookie sheet and then add the cheese and garlic and butter mixture. Because I'm not using a full loaf of bread, I did half the Cozy Cook's recipe. I'm going to add that mixture and spread it out, and then add some grated Parmesan cheese and the rest of the shredded mozzarella cheese. And then I'm going to place this into the oven. I'm going to wait until the lasagna pretty much is done, but I'm going to pop this into the oven and cook this for about 10 minutes until the cheese is melted. Then increase the heat to 450 degrees and bake it for another 5 to 8 minutes until it gets nice and golden brown. You really want to keep an eye on it once you've increased the heat to make sure it doesn't burn. Here's the lasagna. After about 50 minutes, I removed the aluminum foil. I'm going to add the final layer of shredded cheese and then place this back into the oven uncovered for another 10 to 15 minutes until it's nice and golden brown and that cheese on top is melted. And here's the finished lasagna. Here's that garlic bread. I just sprinkled some parsley flakes on top just to make it a little pretty. You don't have to do that. And I'm going to allow the lasagna to sit for about 15 minutes before we cut into it. Here are the finished plates. So I did the lasagna, some of the garlic bread, and then I just made a side salad. And that was our dinner this night. This was so good, so comforting. I haven't made this lasagna for a while, and it was delicious. For dinner the next night, I tried something new. I made New Orleans BBQ Shrimp. I had some Argentinian shrimp from Trader Joe's in my freezer that I wanted to use up. I looked at several different recipes. I'll try to find the one that I followed most closely in the description box below. The original recipe that I was going to try, when I started setting everything out that I needed, I saw that the recipe called for 3 sticks of butter for a pound of shrimp. Now, I'm from the South, and yes, we like our butter, and I know especially in New Orleans they like their butter, but 3 sticks of butter for a pound of shrimp is kind of a lot. So as I was setting everything out, I kind of quickly looked at different recipes, and so let me show you what I made. Next time I make this, which I'll definitely make this again, I will make a couple different changes, but I'll explain that in just a minute. I'm going to start out by making the sauce, and a quick note, New Orleans BBQ Shrimp is not like barbecue in the sense that you may be thinking like a ketchup-based sauce. It's very different, very unique, but it's delicious. In this saucepan, I'm going to add in the Worcestershire sauce, the butter, some lemon juice. I didn't have any fresh lemon juice, so I just used the bottle. That's fine. I'm going to add in some minced garlic and then seasonings. Just use whatever seasonings you like and season it to your taste. I'm using some Cajun seasoning, parsley flakes, some cayenne pepper, then the olive oil. And this is one of the changes that I would make next time I make this. I feel like the olive oil was not needed at all, so next time I'll leave that out. I'm going to add in the white parts of some chopped green onions, give that a stir, and this is over about medium-low heat. Once the butter is melted, you're going to bring that to a simmer, and as soon as it starts to simmer, that's it. You're going to remove it from the heat. I've got the oven preheated to 350 degrees. I've sprayed this casserole dish with some nonstick spray. I'm going to add in my shrimp that I've thawed and drained. I'm drizzling that sauce over top, and that's it. I'm going to place this into the oven, cook this for 15 minutes, stirring it once halfway through. Super quick, super easy. This is a perfect weeknight meal. Shrimp do not take long to cook at all. Here's the finished shrimp. I garnished it with some of the chopped green onions, and then the recipes that I saw for the barbecue shrimp highly suggested serving it with French bread to sop up that yummy sauce. I have some French bread that I sliced up, I buttered it, and I baked it alongside the shrimp until it was toasted. And to go along with it, I made a loaded baked potato salad. There's a New Orleans style restaurant in a town near us that we've been to a couple times. They serve a loaded baked potato salad, and it's delicious. I have no clue what they put in theirs, so what I did was I took my regular loaded baked potato salad recipe. I've shared it before on my channel. I'll link it in the description box below, and I just made a couple changes to it based on, recipes that I'd read on Pinterest for New Orleans style potato salad. I added some spicy brown mustard. I didn't have any Cajun style mustard. I added some Cajun seasoning, and then I read that in New Orleans they serve the potato salad warm. So instead of placing this into the refrigerator after I put it together like I normally would, I just left it out on the counter at room temperature while I finished up dinner. This was really yummy. It was delicious. I recommend you all give this a try. And here are the plates. We have the French bread, the potato salad, and the shrimp. This was delicious. This was such a good dinner. We really enjoyed this. It was something different, and we loved it. I'll definitely make this again with the changes that I mentioned earlier. If you're not a fan of spicy food, don't worry. We didn't find this spicy at all. Now, it definitely can be. You can add more Cajun seasoning. You can add more cayenne pepper. You can even add hot sauce if you'd like. But if you're sensitive to spice, you can just adjust the seasonings to your taste. For dinner the next night, we had leftovers. My husband had some of the leftover vegetable lasagna, and I had the leftovers from the charcuterie board we had earlier this week, and that was our dinner this night. For dinner the next night, I tried a new recipe for teriyaki chicken tacos. I'll have the recipe that I used in the description box below. I did kind of loosely follow it. First, I'm going to start by marinating my chicken. I had about a half of this bottle of Sweet Baby Ray's sweet teriyaki sauce in my fridge that I wanted to use up. So I used about a quarter of the bottle to marinate my chicken in. I marinated it overnight. You could just marinate it for 30 minutes or a couple hours if that's all you have. I'm going to make the crema to go with the tacos. In this small bowl, I'm going to add a container of pineapple yogurt. And to be honest, for some reason, the pineapple yogurt was hard for me to find. I could only find it at Publix. After I've added the yogurt, I'm going to add in some fresh lime juice and then a little bit of mayonnaise. I did add in some salt and a little bit of water just to get it to the consistency that I want. I'm going to mix that until it's well combined, place a lid on it, and place it into the refrigerator until I'm ready to serve it. Next, I'm going to make the grilled pineapple and pear salsa. I have a couple pears that I'm going to peel and dice. Then I have a red onion that I'm going to finely dice. And for the pineapple, I didn't have any fresh on hand. I just used a can of pineapple chunks that I drained. I'm going to grill all of these, quote unquote grill. I just use my George Foreman. You can use an outdoor grill if you'd like. In this bowl, I have the grilled onions. I just allowed them to cool for a couple minutes. I'm adding in the grilled pineapple and pears. I'm going to add in my cilantro. If you don't like cilantro, leave it out. Some finely diced jalapeno, lime juice, cumin, ground ginger, and then salt and pepper. I'm going to stir that until it's well combined, and then that's it. The salsa will be ready. For the chicken, I removed it from the Ziploc bag and marinade, and I cooked it on the George Foreman until it was cooked to 165 degrees internal temperature. I allowed it to rest. I cut it into dices, and then I tossed it with some of the leftover Sweet Baby Ray's teriyaki sauce. For our side, I made some quick sauteed zucchini. I just took a zucchini, washed it, cut it into sticks, and then I sauteed it in some olive oil with salt, pepper, garlic powder, and badilla complete. Then we have the teriyaki chicken, the grilled salsa, the yogurt crema, and then some fajita-sized tortillas. Here is a picture of our plates. These were good. To be honest, I don't know how I feel about the yogurt crema. Part of me liked it. Part of me wasn't so crazy about it. My husband loved it on the other hand, but I really can't imagine what you would put on this instead that would go with all the flavors. But like I said, I didn't dislike it. Just the crema itself, I just wasn't a huge fan of it. But this was an easy dinner. I know there were a couple of steps making the salsa and the crema, but it was really easy and it was delicious. We would make this again. And in fact, my husband asked me to make this again. For dinner the next night, I made pulled pork flatbreads. I had a package of the pulled pork from Sam's Club in my freezer that I wanted to use up, and I saw this recently on Taylor Elmore's channel. She's actually made this a few times, I believe. I'll have her channel linked in the description box below. Definitely check it out. This was so easy, and it was super delicious. I highly recommend you all give this a try. Here's the pulled pork from Sam's Club. I love keeping this on hand in the freezer. It's really tasty and it's super easy. There are instructions for the oven and microwave. I'm going to cook this according to the oven instructions. For the flatbread, we're going to use this naan bread. I got this at Walmart. I am cooking for myself tonight. My husband was not hungry at dinner time. I'm going to place one of the naan breads onto a cookie sheet and then place this into the oven for a few minutes to allow it to heat up. Once it's heated up, I'm going to take some of the pulled pork that has been cooked and it's ready to go. I'm going to toss it with some barbecue sauce and then I'll be ready to make the flatbread. To the naan bread, I'm going to add a layer of barbecue sauce. Then I'm going to add some of the pulled pork. And then on half of the flatbread, I decided to add some bacon pieces and pineapple. I know some people don't like pineapple on their pizza. I love pineapple on my pizza, especially on like a barbecue chicken or a barbecue pulled pork pizza. It's delicious. But I only did it to half because I wasn't sure if I would like it or not. And it was delicious. Next time I make these, which I'll definitely make these again, I'll add the pineapple and the bacon pieces. I didn't have any shredded mozzarella or a mozzarella block on hand, but I did have part of this fresh mozzarella cheese log, so I just tore that into pieces. It was in my fridge. I needed to use it up anyway. And then I'm going to add some shredded cheddar cheese. I did get a little happy with the cheddar cheese. I added a little too much, but that was fine. It was still delicious. I put it into the oven and baked it for a couple minutes until everything was warmed through and the cheese was melted. Here's that finished pizza, and then here's my finished plate. I served the pizza along with just some cucumbers and carrots and ranch dressing for dipping, and this was delicious. And this was a super easy and quick dinner. You could really do whatever toppings you'd want on these naan breads, so I highly recommend you all give this a try. Like I said, it was super quick and really easy and tasty. For the last dinner in this week's video, it was a Friday night and I did not feel like cooking, and Chinese sounded really good to us, so we ordered takeout from our favorite local restaurant. Here are the plates. We did some lo mein, sesame chicken fried rice, crab rangoons, and an egg roll. This was delicious, so good. We just sat on the couch and ate while we watched some TV shows, and that was dinner this night. Thank you so much for watching. I hope that you liked this video, and I hope that you have a great rest of the day. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.